A ship sailed into the Atlantic with 10 souls aboard. Weeks later, it was found drifting, the breakfast still warm on the table. On the morning of November 7th, 1872, a merchant brigantine called the Mary Celeste left New York Harbor bound for Genoa, Italy, carrying a cargo of industrial alcohol and a crew of 10 souls, including the captain, Benjamin Spooner Briggs, his wife Sarah, and their young daughter Sophia. The ship was well-maintained, recently refitted, and considered one of the safer vessels plying the Atlantic routes. Nobody aboard that ship knew, as they set their course eastward into the open ocean, that they would never reach their destination. For nearly 2 weeks, the Mary Celeste made good time across the water. The crew kept their logs, the ship held her course, and all seemed ordinary in the rhythm of a long voyage. The captain's log entries were routine weather conditions, position updates, the steady work of maintaining a sailing ship in deep water. Sarah and Sophia settled into their cabin as the days folded into one another, the way they do at sea, where time moves differently than on land. But on December 4th, something happened. We don't know what it was, and that's what makes this story settle so deeply into the mind. The crew did not know what was coming either, which is the true weight of this mystery. Whatever occurred in those hours would remain unwitnessed and unrecorded. Days later, on December 5th, another ship called the Dei Gratia was sailing the same waters, roughly 400 miles east of the Azores. The crew spotted something unusual on the horizon, a vessel moving erratically, her sails in disarray, drifting without purpose or direction. As they drew closer, they realized it was the Mary Celeste, and she appeared entirely abandoned. The crew of the Dei Gratia called out, fired signal guns, lowered boats. No one answered. No one emerged from below deck. They boarded the Mary Celeste with a mixture of curiosity and growing unease, not knowing what they would find inside that empty shell of a ship. What they discovered was both reassuring and deeply strange. The Mary Celeste was intact. Her hull was sound, her cargo undamaged. The ship's stores were full. The provisions in the galley were fresh, and in the captain's quarters, they found his breakfast, still laid out, cold but present, as though the meal had been abandoned mid-morning rather than weeks before. But the crew was simply gone. All 10 people, the captain, his wife, their daughter, and the 7 crew members, had vanished without leaving a single note, a single explanation, a single clue as to where they went or why they left a perfectly seaworthy ship to drift alone in the Atlantic. The rescue crew searched methodically. They found the ship's boats still secured to the deck, all of them accounted for, which meant the crew had not abandoned ship in an orderly fashion. They found the captain's personal effects still in his cabin, his papers, his maps. There was no sign of violence, no blood, no struggle. It was as though the people had simply stepped out of existence. Theories emerged quickly, as they always do when something defies explanation. Perhaps the crew had mutinied, killed the captain and his family, and fled in a small boat, hoping to escape. Perhaps there had been a storm so terrifying that everyone abandoned ship in panic, taking to the water even though it seemed impossible. Perhaps, and this was whispered in port towns, something supernatural had taken them. But none of these explanations held up under investigation. The ship's manifest showed no cargo missing, no signs of theft or disorder. The crew's wages were still aboard, untouched. If someone had mutinied, they would have taken valuables. If they had fled in panic, there would have been some evidence, a hastily abandoned boat, debris, something. What the rescuers did find was a single lifeboat, not on the deck, but hanging from its davits in a way that suggested it had been lowered into the water at some point, then perhaps retrieved, then lowered again. It was damaged, weathered, but present. This small detail would haunt the investigation for decades, a fragment of a story that nobody could quite complete. The Mary Celeste was towed back to port, where she became the subject of intense scrutiny and wild speculation. Newspapers printed elaborate theories. Spiritualists claimed the ship was haunted. Maritime insurers debated whether a salvage claim should be honored. The ship herself became famous, or infamous, as the ghost ship that carried no ghosts, only mystery. Over the years, the Mary Celeste was salvaged and sold many times. She continued to sail, to carry cargo, to move through the world as though her missing crew had never existed. But she carried her secret with her, a secret that no investigation, no theory, no amount of scrutiny could unlock. The truth, if it exists at all, lies somewhere in those missing hours between November 25th and December 5th, 1872. Perhaps there was a fire below deck that the captain feared would explode, forcing him to abandon ship with his family and crew, trusting to a small boat they thought would be safer. Perhaps there was a leak, a panic, a terrible decision made in fear and darkness. Or perhaps, and this is what rests most gently in the mind, there was something so ordinary, so human, so utterly explicable that we simply cannot imagine it anymore. We cannot think like people from 1872 thought, cannot feel the isolation and fear of being truly lost at sea. The explanation might be sitting in plain sight, invisible to us because we've lost the language to understand it. The Mary Celeste herself was eventually broken up for scrap, her timbers scattered, her story transformed into legend. But somewhere in the Atlantic, the moment of her crew's disappearance still exists, frozen in time, waiting for someone to understand what we cannot quite see. The mystery of the Mary Celeste endures not because it was supernatural or dramatic, but because it was utterly silent. A ship, a crew, a moment of choice or accident or fear, and then nothing. No screams, no evidence, no final words. Just the quiet ocean, keeping its secrets, as it has since the beginning of time. Subscribe so you can drift through another unsolved maritime mystery next week, when you're ready to rest.